You know, whenever a legendary investor like Bill Ackman makes a move, Wall Street and pretty much everyone else stops and listens. His fund, Pershing Square, just dropped its latest portfolio filings, and it gives us this incredible blueprint into the mind of one of the market's boldest players. So what's he up to now? Let's dive in and unpack it.
And this quote right here, this is basically the master key to his entire playbook. Ackman's whole philosophy is built on this one powerful idea of just extreme focus. This isn't about playing it safe with diversification. No, this is about high stakes, absolute conviction. So, to really understand his latest billion-dollar bets, we first have to get inside his head, We got to understand his method. It's this powerful mix of deep value thinking and very hands-on activism. So, what exactly does it mean to be an activist investor? Well, unlike a lot of folks who just buy a stock and kind of hope for the best, Ackman buys a big enough piece of a company that he gets a seat at the table. He's not a passive passenger. He's in there, actively working with, and sometimes, pushing management to unlock the value that he's convinced the market is missing.
And all these principles, they really weave together. I mean, holding only a handful of companies means his team can go incredibly deep on each one. They're not just bargain hunting for cheap stocks. They're on the lookout for great businesses. We're talking dominant, cash-gushing machines that they can buy at a decent price and then help steer for the long haul.
Okay, so now that we've got the philosophy down, let's get to the good stuff. Let's look at the blueprint itself, the latest 13F filing that shows us exactly where Pershing Square is placing its chips right now.
First off, just look at the scale here. We're talking about a portfolio worth over $13.5 billion. But here's the real kicker. According to the filing, that entire mountain of money is spread across just 11 companies. That, my friends, is concentration in action. This chart just makes his strategy so ridiculously clear. Over 20%, 1/5 of the entire fund, is in a single stock, Uber. And get this, the top 5 positions, they make up more than 2/3 of the whole portfolio. That is the definition of putting your money where your mouth is.
So, what were the big shakeups this quarter? Well, he sold his entire stake in Canadian Pacific, which freed up over $1 billion in cash. And where'd that cash go? Straight into a massive new bet on Amazon and an even bigger stake in Alphabet. The signal he's sending couldn't be clearer. He is going all in on big tech.
All right, let's zoom in and really dig into that big tech bet, because this isn't just some minor tweak to the portfolio. This really represents a major new thesis for the entire fund.
Just pause on this number for a second. This is the value of the new Amazon position plus the extra shares of Alphabet he bought. Together, we're talking about a more than $2.2 billion pivot into 2 of the world's biggest companies, all in a single quarter. That's a huge move.
So the billion-dollar question? Why now?
Well, it all circles back to his core principles. He sees these absolutely category-defining businesses in Amazon Web Services and Google Search. I mean, these aren't just tech companies anymore. They're like modern-day utilities with incredibly predictable, durable cash flow. Then you sprinkle in the massive, still untapped potential of AI and top it off with his own statement, but he bought in at an extremely attractive price, and boom, you can see the classic Ackman thesis taking shape.
You know, to really appreciate what Ackman is doing, it's super helpful to compare him to the most famous value investor of all time, Warren Buffett. They actually share a similar foundation, but boy, do they build on it in very different ways.
What they have in common is striking, right? They both focus on quality, strong cash flow, and they both play the long game. But their approaches couldn't be more different. Buffett is famously passive. He buys great companies and trusts their management to keep doing a great job. Ackman, on the other hand, he takes an active role. He often bets on turnarounds where he can directly get in there and influence the outcome.
And here's a really fascinating parallel. A lot of people argue that Ackman is basically building his own mini Berkshire Hathaway. See, by owning pieces of an asset manager like Brookfield and a real estate giant like Howard Hughes, he gets access to these huge pools of capital that he can reinvest, what's known as float. And that is the exact engine that powered Berkshire's insane growth for decades. It's a clear nod to the master. Okay, so let's pull all these threads together. When we look at the whole blueprint, from his core philosophy to these massive new stock picks, a really clear picture starts to emerge.
Look, the key takeaway is this. Ackman's entire strategy completely rejects the idea of diversification. Instead, it's all about conviction. It's an intense, high-stakes game where he would much rather know everything about 8 companies than just a little bit about 80. At the end of the day, he's not just betting on stocks, he's betting on his own team's research and their ability to help shape a handful of truly great businesses.
And that really leaves us with a thought that goes way beyond just investing.
This whole philosophy of concentrated effort, it applies everywhere, in your career, to a skill you want to master, to any major project. So the real question is, how could a more focused, high-conviction approach, going all in on just a few big ideas, change the way you pursue your own goals?